FTI community? Welcome back to the In Your Studio podcast. And I am, of course, joined by this week's Creator of the Week, CJ Cooper. But with the introduction that I have planned, I really hope that I get everything under the sun and more. She is a singer, she is a songwriter. In her illustrious 10-plus year career, she has played over 100 shows, including an international show, which we will, of course, cover. She has 2 full-length albums, a plethora of singles streaming absolutely everywhere. She hosts and produces the Women in Music charity show, and she recently just released her latest single, Fog Breath Hearts. And also, she is recently engaged. FTI community, please help me welcome CJ Cooper. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. How are you, Matt?
I am so good. That was kind of like backwards. I went right to introducing you, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, the accolades! We got to talk about the accolades."
I love that you threw my engagement in at the end. It's great.
That's actually how we're gonna kick it off, because I want to kick it off with that more so Matt to CJ and Noah, because I found out at Hunter's birthday. I was sitting beside him, and I was like, "Oh my god, I almost told her." Oh my goodness.
I didn't know you knew. I didn't know that you knew. You little. Am I on?
How? Take us through the whole day, like leading up to it and everything.
Oh my gosh. So Noah, my fiance now, he had planned a full date day for us. And we went to an arcade called Uniclaw in Waterloo, and it's like all claw machine games. Really fun. They're not even rigged. You get to actually win things. So we did that. Yeah. I feel amazing because I'm not losing all my money right now. It was a lot of fun. We took home some stuffed animals and little things, and then it was so funny because he wanted to go skating, and that's ultimately how he ended up proposing as well. We were skating, which we've never done before ever in our relationship. Never seen him skate before, vice versa. And he wanted to do it at sunset, and it was like 2:00 in the afternoon. And I guess the things he had planned did not last long enough. And so he's freaking out, and he's like, and I wasn't feeling good. I had like a tummy ache. I'm just, hot girl problems. And I was like, my tummy hurts. We need to go home. Like, this is fun, but like, let's just go like hang out, or like let's skate really quick and then go. And he's like, oh, like, can you rally? Like,
come on.
Like, takes me to Tim's. He's like, take your time, we'll get you a juice. You need a bagel? Like, what do you need? And I was like, why are you forcing me to be here? Like, I don't feel it's probably like 3 PM, and we're like, okay, like, let's just go skating now. Like, there's nothing else to do. And he said he had plans later tonight. And I was like, okay, like, all right, let's go skating. And I know that he was panic texting his best friend who was taking the pictures. And he was like, you need to get here right now. I feel bad now because he probably thought he had like 2 or 3 more hours, and he did not. So I think I did 2 laps around the ring, and I turn, and he is wiped out on his back, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I've never seen this man skate, and clearly he can't. And I go, and I'm like, I'm looking him up thinking he just like snapped an ankle, and he gets on a knee and he proposes.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And there's pictures of that, because then his friend comes up after wearing a huge disguise winter coat and is like, you guys need some pictures?
Everything about this is so good.
It was like one of those coats that had like the huge fur thing, and he had a scarf pulled up, and I was so funny because Noah after is like, I couldn't tell if it was Mark or not. It was either Mark or like an Asian lady. I don't know. Like, I couldn't tell who it was. I keep looking at him, but I don't know if it's him, and I hope he's taking the pictures.
Oh no. Oh my god.
He asks me, I obviously say yes. And then I hear all this back, and he's like, oh yeah, at Hunter's birthday. I was telling everyone. And I was like, like, what do you mean? Everyone knew? So,
oh my god.
You were all drinking and you kept your mouth shut, so thanks.
Yeah, because like, no, we it was crazy. We talked about Marvel Rivals, and then he's like, oh, by the way, not next weekend, but the weekend after, I'm proposing to CJ. And I was like, that was a giant leap in conversation topics.
Big bomb.
and when I looked left, and like Tyler and Stefano and Hunter are there. He hasn't told them yet. I'm like, this is a bad situation because CJ's coming later. We're all drinking.
I
It'll
know.
take like 2 weeks. Like, oh, it hasn't happened yet. And oh my goodness, talking.
Oh my god, like I fully knew it was like probably happening that day, but I didn't know how. So when he wiped out skating, I was like, damn, I have to take him to the hospital. Like, I was not expecting it. I think at first I was like, are you kidding? Like, I was like, what's happening? I was even emotional. I was like, I thought you were just like hurt. How dare
Yeah.
you?
How's your ankle?
How's your ankle?
I was gonna say, was there anything like out of the ordinary? But it kind of sounds like the whole day leading up was like, oh, this is very odd.
I could tell a little bit because he has a bad poker face, but also he's a very sweet boy, as you know.
Very.
And like he says I love you and all that all the time, but like the whole day he was like, you're so beautiful, I love you so much, like I love our life together. I was like, you're laying it on thick, buddy. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, why are you staring at me? He's like, I can't just look at you, like you're so pretty. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, like,
If I look at Danielle like that, I'm always just like,
oh
one more hour on the Switch, maybe? Please?
oh my god. And then he had a reservation at Bon Gusto's after, so we got dressed up and went out, and they knew and like did a little dessert for us and stuff. So it was very nice. It was very low key and hilarious.
That's incredible. Congratulations. That is so awesome.
Yeah, we're really excited.
When Noah gets home, he has to come tell me his perspective if there is time, because I need to hear it from his mind going like, oh my god, this time.
Like, so you're he's gonna get mad that I said this. He said he wasn't nervous, and he goes to open the box, and it was upside down. And I was like,
like I will never believe a guy saying they're not nervous for anything, because we overthink everything 100 times. We're like,
oh my god,
easy. It's for the girl. It's so easy.
And he was like, I practiced falling before so I wouldn't get hurt on the ice, but I never practiced opening the box. The ring is up here, and I was like, okay.
We got a method actor on our hands.
Our house is like, our den is like on the opposite side of the house from our room, and that's where he games. And every time I would come into the room, like check on him while he's gaming, be like, hey, how are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm good. And he was on Discord planning the proposal because he knew that I would hear if he was talking on his headset. And I was like, he's like, yeah, when you were home, I would like practice falling on the floor. I'm like, you
oh my god, your neighbor's like just looking and seeing this guy just totally flop back, get back up, like, oh, that was a good one. Oh, whoops.
Like on skates too. I was like, I'm surprised you didn't actually roll an ankle. Holy shit.
That guy.
So it was a very no proposal. It was a very easy yes.
That story's for the wedding too, which is even better. With all of those accolades, with the proposal, which is probably the greatest proposal story I've heard, let's take it back 7 years, because it puts into perspective just what somebody can accomplish. That's so awesome. When you dedicate your time and truly chase your dreams, not only talking about your career, but you're such a talented, driven, incredible person. But for those who don't know you, pre-engagement and now post-engagement, introduce us to CJ Cooper.
Oh, that's a big request. Introduced myself. I don't know what to say. Wow. You asked me that.
You're a professional catcher of people that fall.
I'll drive you to the hospital if you need it.
There we go. Podcast done.
I don't know. I play volleyball. I like doing lots of other things. Music is great. That is a large part of my life. But yeah, I'm very organized, and I love doing things. I love planning things. Clearly, I've already started planning the wedding. It's been not long at all. Like everything's planned.
Oh my
may not know, but January of 2023, I was formally diagnosed with OCD, and that was not shocking to me whatsoever.
I am afraid of that assessment for myself. That I'll like tell myself I have it, and everyone's like, "You have to go get it actually told you do, or you can't just say you have it." I'm like, "No, there's traits. There is traits."
I did like a little questionnaire at the nurse's office, and within 5 minutes, I scored so high, and she was like, "Yeah, so you have it," and I was like, "I knew it."
I knew it. I knew it.
But I was like, my whole life, really, no one knew. Like, I felt like it was pretty obvious. So I feel like that goes into like planning like my women in music shows. Like I'm just I have to be doing things a lot, and I think sometimes I can overbook myself, but I would rather do things than do nothing because I can't sit and do nothing at all.
Yes.
At all. It's one of my worst. I'm like, no, it's like, relax, like you're on a vacation or you're on a break, and I'm like, I can't. My brain is going crazy. Like I'd rather die.
My actual favorite thing that you said at Hunter's birthday was like, not to talk about business, and I'm like, please talk about it because all I'm doing is sitting here thinking about FTI right now. I need to talk out loud.
I felt so bad. I felt like I ate up so much of your time at a party, but I was like, I'm like, Noah's like, oh, do you want to come over? I was like, I'm actually at a business meeting right now. I'm planning things, okay?
Because like I'm exactly like that. I'm like Danielle, for example, is like, oh, we'll take like Sunday and we'll record on Monday. I'm like, no, Sunday I'm planning, I'm pre-planning, I'm on a Google Doc, and then Monday we'll record. And then she's like, you just need time to yourself. And I'm like, you don't understand. Like I can't find that time to myself at all. No. With like as you mentioned, like super like you plan but you also overbook, does that go into like the beginning of your music career, or did you learn those traits as it kind of like progressed and like got bigger?
I think that when I was younger, music was just something that I loved, so I wasn't necessarily focusing on it because you know when you're in school, like school is the main thing you're doing, like in elementary school and high school, like you don't really do other, like you have extracurriculars, but that's what you're focusing on.
Yeah.
I don't think it really translated that much until I was kind of an adult and was really taking it more seriously. And then 2022 was when I first started like really gigging and booking shows. It was like the post-COVID boom. And I think that's where I was like, okay, I'm going to get like a music like book and start scheduling things because now I'm booking more shows and I'm trying to keep track of this and I've never done this before. Like I would have a show every few months or whatever. So it was a lot different of a process for me back then. Whereas now, like, I think I have it right here, but like I have to keep track of all my shows because like last year I did over 100. Yeah. So like how the hell am I supposed to remember all the dates and times and what I need to bring and who has a PA system and what am I wearing and like all these details. So I think that boom of shows is when it really kind of kicked in where I was like, okay, this is now how I'm organizing my life with music and shows and planning it, which has its pros, but the cons I think is it can feel very businessy and take a little bit of the creativity and passion out of it, which I think anyone that does their passion as their job can agree that it's a fine line between I love doing this and I have to remember why I'm doing it, because you can definitely get sucked into I'm doing this to make money now, and you know it becomes, you know, every job, even if you love it, it's still going to have its bad days and its downsides, and so it's definitely been a thing that I'm ongoing, like it's an ongoing process of learning how to find that balance in the last couple of years as I've been doing a lot more shows.
With that's actually really important and fantastic. What you said was like even if it's your passion, like you still balance it as a business if it's like how you're making money. I don't know if I asked anybody previously, but it's always been a question I want to ask a musician, is balancing it as a business. Do you find that it's sometimes like an uphill battle figuring out, hey, it's still my passion? Or do you ever have that feeling of like, oh my goodness, like I see this more businessy than like creating music as a passion?
Yeah, I think last year it definitely became a little bit more businessy for me. I haven't been doing a lot of writing. A lot of what I'm releasing now is stuff that I've written like between I'd say 2021 to 2023.
Okay.
So it's not a lot of like super recent. We're 2025 now, but yeah, I'd say because I did so many shows last year, kind of unexpectedly, like 2022, I did 32 shows. Then the next year I did 57. And then last year I did 101. So it was like a huge boom each year that I was not expecting. I'm very grateful for, but obviously that's a huge jump in what I was doing.
Yeah.
That I'm accustomed to. And before that I was doing like maybe 10 a year, like max. So it became a lot of balancing. And like in November I did 16 shows. There's only 30 days in that month.
I was going to say double bookings, triple.
And like when you think about working a 40-hour week, that's not how it is for music. Like if I have a 2-hour show, I'm not just working 2 hours. It's the travel, it's the practice, it's the coordinating, all these things.
Yeah.
So I think after doing last year, I wanted to take a step back this year and kind of focus on quality over quantity, because 100 was very burnt out by August, September. I was like, holy, like I'm loading my amp every single day into my car, into my house, and driving to all these cities and doing all these things. And it definitely can suck out your soul a little bit. So I kind of have to step back and go, okay, I like music, I like singing, I like doing these things. So I need to remember and like pick accordingly moving forward.
Did like when you felt that in August and September, did you already have your shows for like November booked? Yeah.
I had a lot, and last year, like, and I'm very grateful for all these things, right? Like, don't get me wrong on that. I had a lot of different residencies last year, meaning like I had consistent gigs at a few places. So either once a month, every other week. I had one that was every week. So like every single Thursday I was performing. So with that, it was like, I just totally lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
No, I understand this. Like I'm relating to this. So, yeah.
What were you saying? What was your question?
No, just like if like in November, yeah.
Sorry. Did I already have them planned? So kind of, yeah, because I'm like doing like all those residencies are kind of ongoing, right? So that automatically gives me like 5 or 6 shows in a month that are guaranteed within that month. And then, people book weddings super far out, or they book certain things. And then, I was doing music largely full time and like not working another job last year. Mm-hmm. So for me, and my mindset changing to this year was last year, it was like, I need to make money. So if I'm free, like I'll say yes within reason. Like I still say no to things that aren't really worth my time.
Of course.
But I was still kind of just, if I'm free, then sure. Double book myself because, I can make it on a Tuesday. If I'm going to make $1,000 for 2 shows, hell yeah. But yeah. I'm going to be miserable after because I just drove to 2 cities and did 6 hours of singing. So that's kind of where my mindset has shifted this year into actually thinking about the logistics when I'm booking shows and not just going, my calendar's free, I'll book it. And thinking like, is this actually going to be something that I enjoy?
Yes.
Right? As opposed, and I feel like I didn't really feel that way last year. It was like, someone wants me to sing, I'm booking it. It's like an appointment essentially, instead of, do I want to do this show? Do I like it? Is it worth it? So, yeah.
Did you have like a city, like for example, like the Cambridge Mill or like a cafe where like that was kind of like your happy place to perform no matter how you were feeling? Like, hey, I have to get through this week, but like on Friday, at least I'm going back to like my home.
Honestly, funny, because I do have shows like that, and I'd say it's almost the opposite. The residency ones are the ones that can get really monotonous over time, and especially when you're background music at like a restaurant or a bar, which is a lot of what I do. It's very like, people aren't clapping, they don't really notice a lot of the time. I'm just there, and that's not like why I want to be a singer or performer, right? Like I don't feel like I'm doing what I can do.
Yes.
Right? Like I'm kind of wasted in the corner essentially.
Yeah.
Not to toot my own horn, but like who's singing right now while you're eating your lobster biscuits,
or at the ranch.
These people at the ranch are like, yeah, party. The Mill, they're like, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
3 hours and no one clapped. That's fine.
Don't worry. I'm going to love myself on the drive home. Don't you worry at all.
I'm going to call Noah and I'm going to cry while I eat my free food, my little ravioli in the car. That's cool. But I would say like there's definitely one-off shows that I get really excited about that come around like once a year kind of. So like I perform at the It used to be called the Rogers Cup, but the National Bank Open tennis tournament, which is essentially like the Canadian US Open for tennis, which is a big deal. That's my biggest corporate client, and I love getting to be a part of that every year. I love singing at weddings because they're always different and it's very custom to those couples. So like those are the ones that I get excited for, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like I don't know essentially what to expect. I don't know who I'm gonna meet. I get to like dress a different way and not just like feel like I'm just sitting like at a bar for 3 hours, right when I could just be sitting at home for like $200. It's not worth it. So it's it's the more like interesting ones I find.
What's going on, FTI community? My name is James Merrill and I'm an independent filmmaker from the UK. I interrupt your podcast today to let you know that my new short film, Sugar, is releasing on YouTube on Tuesday the 25th of February. This is a film all about how we as people choose to treat ourselves and how we connect to the earth itself. So if that sounds interesting to you, then please do check it out. Here's a preview.
What's your name? You got a name? Mine's Saoirse. Can you say Saoirse? Close, close. My parents gave me that name, not because we're Irish, because we're not, but because they wanted to play a really funny prank on me, where I have to tell everyone how to spell my name and pronounce it every single day for the rest of my life. See, you can't get it right either. Let's give you a better name.
Yeah, because like if you look at it from a money perspective, I could be completely wrong. Like you're gonna receive like 200 to 1,000 at the show, but you're also making the money like in the background, like preparing, loading the car. Like those are like what you're also getting paid to do.
Absolutely.
So
It's all the lessons before this to get this good, right? Like all my equipment, maintenance, all these things, right?
That actually segues perfect into what I wanted to really go. We're gonna hop back right into the time machine. We're gonna go from your debut album, Look Ahead, to the second album, Are We There Yet, which is how you and I connected, to the present day, to where you've also mentioned. We've not only toured Southern Ontario, but you've also played at the Lilla By Festivalen in Sweden. And not to forget, you've also received so many awards, such as the Community Hero Award, a micro grant recipient, excuse me, and top local musician for Guelph. It would be selling it short to say that your music career has been what dreams are made of for absolutely any musician. I mean, in that 7-year timeline between all the setting up, all the gigs, finding all these residencies, and just like being inspired as best as you can, take us right back to the first album and then come right back to present day while talking about the 2022 album.
Awesome. I can do that. My first album came out in 2018. I was in the 12th grade, and it was songs that I wrote from 2013 to 2017. Look Ahead, the title track on the album, I wrote that in the 8th grade.
Understood. Okay.
That song, it's so hilarious. I don't play it live very often, but when I do, the message of the song translates well. I wrote it about being sad that the 8th grade was ending and I was scared to go to high school.
Yes.
That's
yes.
deep shit, Matt.
Yes. Yes.
The heart. Like that is that was the biggest thing happening in 13-year-old CJ's life. So that album started it all. However juvenile I might look back and go, Jesus, like, come on, your life is not hard. Like, what is your 15? Like, what's going on? But it was very inspired by like early Taylor Swift. I had a vocal coach at the time, Amber McLean, who was a huge inspiration for me. And I was also in a pop show choir called KW Glee, which was also a huge thing that shaped me in high school. I was in it for 2.5 years. So that album was just a lot of like the legitimate first like awareness of coming of age, when you're first like, oh, I'm growing up and like I'm gonna graduate and then my friends are gonna leave, like all those kind of like initial feelings of like, oh, I'm like a person like in life and all of you are different people and we're all doing different things. And it was kind of like that's what that album was. And it's very acoustic and stripped back and just trying things for the first time. And then the second album came out in 2022, so obviously like a good chunk of time later. And those songs were written from late 2018 when I first went to college. I went to Seneca College for songwriting and performance. So wrote a lot of songs in the program. I don't think any that I used for actual like, oh, actually that's a lie. A couple of the songs I actually used for projects in school and they made it on the album because they were
Amazing.
yeah. This Train was a song that I wrote about my Via Rail tour that I did, and I co-wrote it with a friend, and it was based on our What Did You Do for Summer essays we had to do, and then we had to write a song. So that one became a song on the album. Most of that album was from that specific small chunk of time of like 2018, 2019. But there's a couple of COVID ones, Out of the Shadow and Never Alone, were written right at the beginning of 2020, kind of speak for themselves in terms of like life.
What had happened?
Yeah, life is crap, and like I miss being out. Excuse me, and yeah, just trying to look forward when we were all going through a tough time. And that album, it's called Are We There Yet? Not based on the Ice Cube movie.
Oh, all right. That's my next 5 questions.
I also have it tattooed on me too, and some people are like, "Do you have the sequel? Are We Done Yet?" Or the first?
Oh no! Oh no! That's a joke I would make. Oh no!
Didn't think of that one. Oh my god, not based on that. But I'd say a huge thing, and I was just speaking with my parents about this recently, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you were like that." But I was always the kid that was excited to get to the next thing. Like if I was here, it didn't matter that I was excited about being here a year ago. I wanted to be a year from now. Like I was always just like trying to get to the next thing and grow up, and I never really appreciated where I was in the moment.
It's very hard to.
Absolutely. You're excited. You know, I had unchecked mental illness. I was like, I want to be anywhere that I'm excited to be. Like at 15, I was planning my wedding.
Yeah.
I had a Pinterest board and I was so excited. And now that I'm here, I'm literally like, I've waited my whole life for this.
I'm 5 years mentally ahead right now.
Absolutely, right? I'm like, okay, so what are we naming our kids? Too soon for that one. No, but truly that album and that age, because it came out just before I turned 22 and was recorded at like 21 in a home studio during COVID, was truly me being like, holy shit, like I just need to be here. I need to be here because I'm never going to be here again.
Yes.
Right? And even if right now is not the best, it's been worse, it will be better. So Are We There Yet is like just very, you know, when you're a kid and you're like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? It's like, just shut up and look out the window and watch the cows in the field and have a good time. Like, why
touch the grass?
We'll get there when we get there. Like, I can't make it go any faster. So I think it's a huge message for me that I've now tried to internalize as I've gotten a little bit older. And that album was very experimental because a lot of it was written in school. So there's quite a few genres on there because I was just trying to figure out my stuff, and I was finally getting to like co-write and meet people in different genres for the first time that I vibed with. So it was a lot of like experimentation, which I think at that age was appropriate as well.
Of course. And even like as an artist at like any age, like or like any chapter in your career, like experimenting is also not only very important, but it's very fun because it also doesn't keep you in a box.
Absolutely. Taylor Swift has done an album in almost every genre but like heavy metal. So like
has re-released it 5 times over.
Absolutely. But it's true, right? Like you gotta test it out, and sometimes what your audience loves is not what you love, or vice versa. So it's important to like test things out and give it a try.
What was really awesome what you said there was the thing about always being ahead, because like as an artist, it's exactly what you said. You're never in the moment because you're always thinking about what's next. At the relaunch concert, I was not taking in the relaunch concert until my buddy Jeremy came up and he hugged me. And I think he gave everybody the same speech that night. He was like, what did he say? Oh, he was like, you don't see it now because you've done so much, but everything you've done so far has made this happen. And I'm going to go tell it to every artist. And I was like, holy shit. Like, why couldn't I have been told that 10 years ago when like 15-year-old me was thinking the exact same thing? And it took one hug from Jeremy for 30 seconds to put life into perspective. So after it, I had a conversation with like Danielle and the artist. And I was like, guys, like, don't think about what you're doing next weekend. Just like relive last night. They're like, no, we're going to be living it for like a year straight now. And it's like good because we need to learn that mindset and that mentality. talking about how you wrote the songs in college, because that was very interesting to me. Where did you have to get permission to translate them from school projects to like actually like being fully yours? Because
So when we write a song, it's still our intellectual property. The school doesn't own any like aspect.
good.
Yeah, it's still I wrote the song or we wrote the song. So all I had to do was just ask the people that I co-wrote with, and a couple of them are on the tracks. Like Saint is a track that I wrote in school. That one's a very like punk kind of song because I wrote it with a guy named Hawkeye. That's his real name. Very cool.
Yeah.
And that was his genre, and we were like, let's just mess around and see what happens, and we wrote it, and I was like, this is a really sick song. It doesn't really
It's a
match,
sick song.
right? I was like, it doesn't match anything else on the album. It doesn't really suit what people know about me. So
Yeah.
so like that's something like that, right? Like it's not a song that I play live very often. I have played it live a couple times, but it's that was just something we're writing, and we're like, this is cool, let's do it. But yeah, I do own all of those songs. Yeah.
That's really awesome to know for like music related courses, because I know there's so many college and university courses where if you submit like a creative writing paper, the school can say like it's theirs now because like they submitted it. And speaking of that song, it's really cool that it's near the end of the album, because not only does it kind of like wrap up like your album, of course, but it kind of gives the people who listen from beginning to end kind of like a unexpected treat where like, oh,
Mhm.
and they might say like, CJ, like, when's something like this coming out again, because this was awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of them do have similar vibes, like Out of the Shadow, Never Alone. Like they still follow like a general genre or a feeling, but then I throw in a couple like, wild cards, like Blue Moon, very vibey. I was like, I want people to just like sit in an LED lit room and be high and listen to the song and just be like, yeah, Blue
This is
Moon.
life.
Like, right? Like, I was like, throw a couple in there that are like super random and just see what people think. And the numbers show me what people like and what they don't like. And
Yeah.
I try to internalize it too much because I'm like, oh, I liked that one, but it's fine.
Are you someone who's heavily influenced by the numbers? Like when it comes, no, yeah, that's the
Nah.
best reaction.
Nah, I check them. I get emails. I have the apps like Spotify for Artists and Apple Music numbers and stuff. Honestly, for me, it's very much like, even after being in the industry for so long and being like a professional artist for this long, those little numbers that come in sometimes, like seeing one person listen to your song in Reykjavik, Iceland, and I'm like, holy crap! Like,
I want to get here.
Iceland is listening, and like,
Yeah,
probably has the whole country, but I don't care because that's one person that's never met me, like super far away, that has happened to listen to Neverland or Kid, and like that kind of stuff is so cool. Like, I think the year-end rap Spotify's, every once in a while when I see, not mine, I'm always proud of mine, but I'll see other people sometimes and I'm like, oh, how did they get those numbers? And that's something that I've been trying to step away from a lot and just be like, wow, good for you guys. I know none of us are making money off Spotify, so that doesn't make a difference.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I do a lot more live shows than I release music, so that's my bread and butter.
I've had to message so many musicians, and because like Twitch, the streaming platform does a similar thing where they give you like a recap at the end of the year, but
Mhm.
like a lot of like their descriptions, their posts, like their captions always talk about like, wasn't the greatest year, the numbers are going to be better next year, I promise. And it like in the best way possible, because I want to word this very nicely, but it's so hard. It's almost like they're exposing more of like not an insecurity, but like they're not proud of what they did. Like if you released 2 albums in a year, that's 2 albums of you putting in time.
Yeah.
And for you to like kind of undersell yourself on social media to go like, I'm so sorry guys, that didn't do so good, like next year I promise to do better. It's just like
Yeah.
that feeling that like when I read someone say like, I promise next year I'll release more music, it's like you're not like a machine, you're a person
Yeah, you
doing what
don't
you're
owe
passionate.
people. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there was been so many times where I'm like, yeah, we're taking this offline. I'm giving you a call because my text you can't feel how I'm talking to you through text, but like for anybody, it's just like if you're releasing something, you're releasing it because you love it, not because you're like, it's been 2 months since I posted last, I need to post. Brutal
Yeah.
mentality to get into, but as you said, it's just like if one person in Iceland listens, that's one person in Iceland listening.
Yeah. It's cool. I think I also get in my head about when I should be releasing music. Like, I don't have a manager or anything, so I'm like, I feel like based on the big artists that I should be putting it out like more often. But I'm like, yeah, but the big artists aren't paying for everything themselves out of pocket. So like it's not sustainable for me to release an album every other year. Like I can't fund that. There's only so many grants that exist. So I think that's something that I put a lot of pressure on, where I'm like, oh, it's been like 8 months. People are going to forget I exist if I don't release a song tomorrow. And that's, I think, the main thing that I need, like that I think about, and that I'm like even for an album, 2022 is the last album. I don't know when the next one's coming. I'm getting married next year. I don't know if it's coming. I'm busy. It's sure as hell not coming this year. So if it's 2027 and it takes me 5 years, then great. It's going to be the best damn album that took me 5 years to make, and I'll be happy with it. So,
And
but
it's authentically from you.
that. Yeah.
No, that's perfect, because like honestly, on top of that too, like big artists don't get to pick usually, like when they put out their album. Something that I hated reading was when Tyler the Creator just released Chromacopia. Everyone's like, oh, he started this new trend about announcing an album 2 weeks early on a random Monday morning. It's like, he didn't. He more so just did it on a Monday when like your best friend who's a musician could drop on a Wednesday. And it's just like, he didn't make the trend. Like he just kind of released it. Now you think like he's like this, by God, like Monday is the best day to release music now. I could get into hours about trends and everything. Yeah. We're gonna zoom right past it. We're gonna go from Iceland, and we're gonna travel Ontario and end up in Sweden. As you mentioned, 100 shows last year. You've played for, as you also mentioned, the National Bank Open, CFL, Sportsnet, TD Bank, Sweden, cafes, the ranch, everywhere. Talk about some of these shows, especially going from like a cafe in Guelph to hopping on a plane and going across the world.
Yeah, it's been a trip for sure. Really quick before I talk about Sweden, though, because I know that if Noah was here, when we first started dating, and I told him that I had sung on Sportsnet because I sang the anthem for a Team Canada basketball game. It was a qualifying game. And he thought it was the coolest thing he'd ever heard. And every person that we would meet, he'd go, hey, this is my girlfriend, CJ. Did you know she sang on Sportsnet?
Let's go, though.
Opening line for everything. He's like,
yes.
Sportsnet. I'm like, dude, you don't even watch Sportsnet. Like, why is it such a big deal for you? He's like,
hype you up.
So cool. I was like, you're the one for me.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%.
Like, permanent hype, man. It's great. He thinks I'm so cool. I don't know why, but it's cool.
That's crazy. That's the only, like, that's what he's saying in front of you. Like, imagine the things he's like, how he's like hyping you up on. It's just like him and his coworkers, him and friends. Yeah.
Don't even start. No, he's not someone I have to worry about behind closed doors. He's always lovely. But yeah, so Sportsnet, he thinks it's really cool. And my dad texted, I didn't know it was going to be on TV until after, and my dad texted me, he's like, I just watched you on TV. I was like, oh, good thing I didn't know until after, because I would have thrown up. Jesus.
That's incredible.
But yeah, Sweden. So I book most of my shows myself. I research, I reach out to places, I see where other musicians are playing, and I go, hey, I already know you do live music, so like, when are you available? I'm just like sniping everyone's shows. There's enough to go around. It's okay. I recommend a lot of shows to other people when I can't do them.
Yes.
I have to throw that out there. I'm a girl's girl. It's fine. Can't get about that. But I did place second in a songwriting contest just at the end of 2023, and it was for my song Kid, which was the first single off of what will be the third album. And that one got me noticed by some people, which was cool because I'd never really had that in a larger scope. So I was approached by one of the adjudicators, Sandy Graham, and she's had a very long career in the arts, based out of Toronto, and she basically was like, I would love to kind of work with you in an informal way. Like, no money was exchanged, no contracts were signed. It was just, I believe in you. I have some opportunities that I could give you that I know you can't get on your own. Let's just see what we can accomplish together. And it was cool. She owns Cashbox Radio, which is a worldwide radio station. So she was playing my stuff there. It was really cool, like promoting it, playing my songs. And then Lilla By Festivalen in Rinkeby is the 5th year coming up. So relatively new festival, very like hillside vibes, like very like in a field, like just very like casual. And she's like, yeah, they have a Canada barn. Like they're very like, they have like a connection with Canada. So they promote Swedish artists and Canadian artists. So there was a whole bunch of us that flew over. They had a couple Americans as well. And we all flew there. The guy that got first in the contest, his band was also invited. And I got to do 2 performances, one on the main stage on the first day, and then one in the Canada barn on the second day. And it was really cool. It was an unpaid festival. Like, it was fully just for exposure, which normally, like, I'm not crazy about that, but I was like, I can say I'm an international artist after this.
Sweden, yeah.
I never do it again. And it was really cool. I think it was a big stepping stone for me, because it was not just in the obvious ways of, like, oh, I flew across the ocean and I'm performing, and that's, like, really cool, but getting in front of a different audience, like a very different audience, because when you perform locally, like, I love people here, nothing bad to say, but it's just a different feeling, and you realize, like, I'm exposing all these people to my music for the first time. They have no prior impression of who I am. So who do I want to be? Right? Like, how do I, like, I've never had to think so hard about, like, my outfits, like, how am I doing my hair? Like, how am I, like, who am I presenting myself as when I was there? And it was very low key. I had, like, little sundresses and my hair down and very natural and approachable was kind of like the vibe. And it was just a really interesting experience to also get to network in that type of setting as well, because there's so many, like, industry people from Canada, America, Europe, and speaking off of Sandy's words, not mine, but she was like, you were, like, the talk of the festival. Like, everyone was just so proud of how, like, well-mannered you were, and you're very great at, like, chatting with people and, like, putting yourself out there. And I was like, well, you know, I think people get a weird impression of me because I'm still young. Like, I'm, you know, we're mid-20s, but they don't realize how long I've been doing this. Yep. Like, I've been training myself for over 10 years. So I'm not, like, you know, I don't really know, like, what to say or, like, how to, I'm, like, very professional. So it was very big learning experience and really cool. I hope that I get to do more Europe shows in the future. I'm not sure how, but it would be really cool to do it.
Probably through the connections you made out there and such as well.
Yeah, who knows? Like, that was something that came out of left field for me. And, like, within 8 months of meeting this lady and getting second in this contest, I was in Europe. So, like, things do happen relatively quickly, right?
And that literally can always be, like, the positive thought against, like those thoughts of, like, numbers, streaming, social media. It's just like being able to hop on a plane. You never know who's watching. You never know what a room of 20 looks like. And now you're in Sweden performing on 2 stages, main stage, Canadian barn, and just, like, being the talk of the festival after goes such a long way. They put so much, like, momentum not only behind you for others, but for yourself too, going, like, I am this person. Like, this person that I've built up to be, I am this person.
And one quick thing to add to that too is it felt really surreal to be, because Sweden is where ABBA is from, and I love that band. And, like, I met the producer who did, like, all of ABBA's albums, and he was like, I would love to work with you one day. And to feel, like, to be in that room and to be like, am I worthy of being here talking to these people? Like, that was a very weird, like, ego thing where I feel like I'm typically very humble. Like, I know my worth, but I'm also, like, not yelling about it and, like, bragging and all that kind of stuff. And for them to be like, no, you're very talented, you're songwriting, like, all these things, whatever. And I remember one quote that a very incredible songwriter, he came up and he was like, I would say you have a bright future, but you have a bright present. And it was such a trippy thing. And I was like, oh my God, thanks. Like, that was just, like, isn't that a crazy, like...
Yeah.
And I was like, I do. Like, right now is really, I'm popping off. Like, that's crazy. You know? Yeah. Like, it was just, because I was going into it very, like, you know, be very polite and you don't know who you're going to meet and be professional all the time and, you know, shake hands and just, and then just to have these people approach me and be like, you're incredible. Like, you deserve to be here. And I was like, oh my God, like maybe I do. Like, I don't know. Right? It's weird. Like to go from singing at Red Brick Cafe downtown or to be like doing, you know, little shows and stuff. And then to be somewhere like that in a room full of those types of people, I was like, holy crap.
Oh my God, the compliments too is like those compliments you want to like put in a
God.
jar. You're like, all right, I need
never forget those. That's ingrained in me. Yeah.
And from like the producer standpoint as well, we mentioned at the beginning, you also produce and host your own show. So it is the Women in Music charity show that it's going on its third year this year. Not only an amazing evening of music, but you also do it for a great cause in the charity, the Guelph Wellington Women in Crisis. As mentioned, with two under your belt, a third on the way. What was the spark of inspiration to curate this event? And why is this an important thing for you to do as both an individual and a musician?
I love this question. I love talking about this topic. We're definitely going to go over an hour. I'm sorry.
Let's do it.
So I had been so Women in Music is its own overarching franchise worldwide. So don't tell anyone. Maybe it's trademarked and I'm not allowed to use that, but it's fine.
It's okay. Yeah.
Don't tell anyone, guys. Listening and watching.
Podcast's not posted.
We're not actually posting this episode. Sorry. This is just for us. Oh, yeah, we're just hanging out. We're on FaceTime.
That's all it is. Yeah, it's just a fancy FaceTime.
Just two dudes hanging out. It's fine. I'll answer your question now. Sorry. So I had been a part of a show in Toronto called Women in Music. And it was fine. It was like 5 or 6 women on the lineup. We did original songs. It was really cool. But that was kind of all it was. So it kind of just felt not performative because it was a woman hosting it and she was lovely and everyone there was very talented. But it was like, it's women in music for the sake of being women in music. Like it just didn't have any more depth to it. And I was like, I feel like there's more we could be doing or like making it like emphasizing the fact that it's women in music, right?
Yes.
And there's definitely misogyny and sexism everywhere, but in this industry, there's a lot of men, like male produce. I've never met a female producer in my whole life. I've never met a female producer.
Good. Okay. Yeah.
A lot of there's a lot of female musicians, but like for me to work with someone, it's always a man. At my Seneca college program, almost all male teachers and professors. And I had one specifically that was a piece of crap. And that was kind of what sparked me because I did the show a little bit after that time. And I was like, damn, you guys are really just walking all over us and not respecting us the way that we should be respected the same as anyone else. And I think that kind of sparked that beginning of the passion of like, I want to do something. Like I play a lot of shows, but like I want to do a show that matters. That's not about me. Like that's not about me being the headliner or performing. Like I want to take a step back from that role. Granted, I still did perform. Honestly, I was kind of bullied into it. People were like, what do you mean? Your name's on the poster, but you're not singing? That's lame. Like, what a waste. I was like, okay, Jesus Christ. Twist my arm. But I just didn't want that to be the point. I wanted to be able to create more of an event. So I have always found local artists, mostly Guelph surrounding area. We've donated to the Women in Crisis Shelter. And another facet of that is getting local businesses, specifically in the first year, only female business owners from Guelph donated door prizes. And then this year I extended it a little bit to get more, and we did raffles and tickets and everything just to raise a bit more money. But I just wanted to create something that really had a community feel. It was a team effort. I had the incredible Queen Kay, if you know her, but she hosted, and she does a lot of advocacy for many different groups in Guelph. So she hosted it and emceed it so that I could take a step back from that role as well. Like this past year, had a few performers, and then ultimately, we're donating to the Women in Crisis Shelter. And the micro grant from the Guelph Arts Council the first year in 2023 was why I was able to start it. I kind of I noticed that they had a program. You could get up to $1,000, and it wasn't something I'd been planning for a very long time, but I was like, oh, it'd be really cool to like put on a show. Like what would mean a lot to me if I was to get this money, and like what would I do with it? And so I kind of just submitted it and then forgot about it. And then I got an e-transfer for like $800. And they were like, here you go, put on your show. And I was like, oh shit, okay, I gotta put on a show.
This weekend, be there.
Wait, my rent's paid. Just kidding. I did use it. But that was important for me too, was that all the performers get paid appropriately for their time, because also too often we're freaking scammed for like, especially I'm never going to name names. There's some great businesses in Guelph and there's some not great ones in terms of taking advantage of artists.
Agreed.
So I was not going to be that person. So everyone got paid appropriately for their time. I had a female photographer that was paid for their time. You know, that was my thing. I'm wanting to lift up women. I want women in the community to feel a part of it and that they can come and that they're welcome. And that was just a huge, important thing for me. And it's been nice to be able to do it a second year and have people excited and say, oh, I want to be a part of it for the third year. Like I do it the first weekend in August, and I already have a list of performers I'm considering. So it's a really fun thing that I look forward to now.
Yo, like absolutely amazing. Like I don't even want to like add on to anything you said. I don't want to dive in. Like that is just genuinely like such a powering and such a great concept turned idea. And the coolest thing, now that you've done it 2 years, is watching this idea that you've brainstormed literally in front of you happening. Like that is such an unreal feeling.
Yeah.
Like,
we've raised over $2,000 too in 2 years.
Let's go.
Jesus, like, do you know what that gets at the shelter? That's great.
That's a lot, just as a general, because like although you're putting on the show, like you have this crowd of people enjoying it, but you have these businesses backing it up, and everybody knows it's all for one collective good reason. Yeah. And not to harp on what you said about the good businesses and the bad businesses in Guelph, I just also think it's also very important to, from a business standpoint, to recognize where you fit into that. Because when you're doing something out of the goodness of your heart, and you're not like paying with exposure, you're not like just saying like do this because I'm your friend, but you're genuinely able to pay everybody who took part and say like at the end of the day everyone was treated fairly. That goes such a long way, not only for like a musician that you know of, but you could have someone in the audience who could be working in marketing going like, oh, I saw a show that an artist named CJ Cooper put on. We should invite her into our realm and she can help us do something. It just like navigates so many trenches and like so many seas that you might have not even known yet, or your name could be in these conversations and you're not aware of them yet.
Absolutely. And that's one of those instances of something kind of just falling in your lap and just taking it and running with it. So it's really cool.
I this morning at work, I work with Shoop, Derek, and I was like, Derek, my questions are okay. They're not the greatest, because when you talk to a musician, like how we were talking before we recorded, it's just like you're probably going to be asked like the generic, but I hope I switched it up a little bit, because like you can only be asked so many times your inspiration, your favorite song, a memorable moment.
Oh God. When did you get your first guitar?
I haven't yet, actually.
I don't even play guitar. What are you talking about?
Did you bring the right person? In the realm of playing guitar, guitars also have lyrics to kind of go together. I wanted to know the inspiration behind some of your songs, specifically the song lyrics. I have chosen 3 songs. Okay. I am going to cheat and look at my sheet so I can read them, and I'm going to read them as if it's a poem. I apologize, I'm not reading in the way they were presented on the songs. The first song is honestly a favorite of mine from you. It's Saint, off of the 2292 album Are We There Yet, featuring Hawkeye, which didn't know that's his real name. Absolutely stellar. Incredible. Absolutely. The lyrics that I have chosen are: pain has no mouth, feeds on everything. It's closing in tight, I can't feel a thing. What is the thought process? Was that a Hawkeye, or kind of like a mutual feeling that you were able to transcribe into lyrics?
So that specific, like the song overall, but that section is about depression. Understood.
Okay.
Yeah. So pain has no mouth, feeds on everything. It's closing in tight, I can't feel a thing. That time in both of our lives, I'd say, for Hawkeye and myself, was tough. Because you're just out of high school, you're discovering yourself, you're away from home for the first time. And when we sat down to write, we both kind of had lyrics, like unspecified lyrics, floating around for any type of project. So I honestly couldn't even tell you who wrote that line, if it was me or him. But between the verses, like he wrote most of the verses and then I wrote the full bridge, which that's one of my favorite bridges that I've written, like mostly like melodically. I'm really proud of that one. And yeah, very much just a collaboration of we kind of brainstormed that chorus part and we were like, damn, that kind of hits. Like that's
Very much.
it's deep. Because I've always been like a very literal person in general, but especially in songwriting. But he's very metaphorical and poetic, and actually like Clay Ghost on Spotify, that's what his stuff is. Really sick. You should look at it. But very, very metaphorical, very like intricate lyrics where like I had to freaking Google. I'm like, I don't even know what this word means. But like when I look it up, I'm like, oh, genius. Like
This is the word.
I'm just not smart enough to understand your songs. It's not you, it's me. So yeah, we kind of just had these free floating lyrics that we just kind of in one session, it all just came together and you're like, okay, sick. Like it was a good flow.
And it turned out to be an absolute like incredible song too, that I'm sure not only you but Hawkeye is also just as proud of too, because it really hits. It's
cool, eh? It's so different from anything else that I do, but it's great. Like you play that and then you listen to Look Ahead and you're like, who are CJ having an emo phase? Like what is this?
just for 3 minutes, then we're back to the regularly scheduled program.
Like, I just needed like my rage room and I'm like, okay, back to our regular scheduled program.
Oh my god. Oh, that is so good. That is so good.
It's a little interlude. Yeah.
The second song is Never Alone. This one is a little bit longer, the lyrics that I pulled. It is, the world's got problems like you and I. You'll figure it out and always wonder why. Life keeps testing you. You gotta keep on keeping on. Where is the inspiration behind that, and what is the story behind the song entirely?
Yeah, Never Alone, I think I wrote that one May of 2020. And I wrote Out of the Shadow, which is on that album as well, in like April. So I kind of was like really, my parents let me make a home studio when I was still living with them. And I was just on my little writing bender. I had just started therapy for the first time. I was like, ooh, all these feelings, they're coming out and they're powerful. So I feel like I was just working through a lot at that time and trying to find a way to, you know, because I hate to like talk about COVID times, like, you know, but that was a really, really shitty, like the first few months were so hard for everyone. And like mental health was at an all-time low. And that was kind of me trying to find a hopefulness, I guess, in the situation. I definitely had darker songs that didn't make the album of me just trying to like vent out those feelings. But that one was very, yeah, like I'm not alone. I might feel alone. I don't get to see any of my friends. I hadn't seen like my grandparents in a while, like, you know, by the end of COVID and stuff too. Like, I was like, oh, this is a long haul. My dad had cancer just before COVID. He's fine now. But like just going through all these things and I was like, Jesus, like, like
Yeah.
Wars, like the 6 months leading up to the beginning of COVID were easily like some of the worst of my life. And so I think getting into COVID and starting to write more songs, I was like, I need to find a way to write these songs and also to not have people think I want to kill myself because, you know, I was like, I need these to be like kind of lighthearted, inspirational songs so people will listen to them and like not be concerned.
The smile. How that whole thing came out with the smile. I'm fine, guys. I promise. It's for the song.
I'm good. I'm here.
Then the third one, and this is honestly kind of like one of those things where you look back and go like, oh my god, I predicted it, like as in like you predicted it, is Soulmate. It's really sweet to look back on because it's talking about growing old with your one, and you have found your one with Noah. So as opposed to reading the lyrics, which I totally can, talk about the song versus the actual feeling that you have being engaged and being in such a love-in, warm relationship.
Oh gosh. Noah's my favorite topic, so absolutely.
Here we go.
Yeah, it's so funny too, because I wrote that song 2018. Noah and I actually met in 2017. It was not official. It was not written about him. We were not together at that.
Predicted it, by the way. Noah, you didn't know.
We used to work together in high school.
Yes.
And he's a couple years older than me, so when he went away to college, we kind of lost touch and whatever, as it goes when you're that age. And then obviously reconnected. Here we are. But when I look back on that song, I think it's really interesting because the references that I made all somehow still line up perfectly with him. Like just in that first verse, I talk about a kid with curly dark hair in their Spider-Man underwear. You've met Noah. He loves Spider-Man
and Marvel Rivals.
And Marvel Rivals. He has, for Valentine's Day last year, I got us little Lego keychains, and he has Spider-Man and I have Ghost Spider, like Gwen.
Yeah.
Like, he loves Spider-Man, and I just thought that was so funny because it was such a random reference at the time. And then I'm like, what are the odds that I'm marrying a Spider-Man obsessed guy? Like,
you wrote your future.
Like, how did that line up so well? But it's really cool because with him, it was very instantly like, we matched on Tinder. After like 7 years. And even in the first conversation, we texted for 7 hours straight, stayed up all night. He lived down the street from me and he wanted to like go on a walk. Like, he was like, it was like 2 a.m. He's like, I just want to like see you in person. Like, can we go on a walk? And I was like, I can't, because my grandma's staying over and my mom's sleeping on the couch and I can't go outside because I'll wake her up. And I was like, I have to wait till tomorrow. I was like, if you want to see me, you have to wait. Also, it's really sketchy if I leave my house at 2 a.m.
to see a
guy. My mom's gonna be like, you little whore.
Those are probably the longest hours for Noah to wait to.
Oh my god, absolutely. So, like, the next morning, like that day, we went on our first date. Like, we didn't wait long. At first he was like, this was on a Monday, it was Thanksgiving Monday. He's like, Saturday, I'll go to your show and like we'll have a date. And then it was like, can I see you Thursday actually? Oh, how about, okay, I'm seeing you tomorrow. Like, it kept getting shorter. Like, in that conversation, we were like, I need to see you right now. First date. Sitting in the car with him, we went on a hike, and I knew on the first date that he was the one, absolutely. And that was my soulmate moment of like, oh yeah, when people say when you know, absolutely you do.
Absolutely.
In our case, at least, like, maybe not everyone, but maybe you just haven't found that person, because it was very instant of like, holy shit, did we just become best friends? Like,
yeah,
it was it was awesome.
I agree with that entirely. I know Danielle listens to all these, and just like Noah, I tell Danielle absolutely everything, and like maybe sometimes I go like above and beyond, but a girl can never be told too much. But like, absolutely, Danielle and I knew each other for 9 years. When we reconnected after 4 or 5, she came over. She came out to the ranch, funny enough.
Yeah.
And the whole time the night was going so bad because like the ranch was packed. The roads were terrible, so we all ended up in my buddy Colin's kitchen. And this whole time, I'm looking at my buddy Dylan, and I'm like, I feel. I'm like, I'm not telling you, like, I feel.
Aww.
So that feeling that you have with Noah, it's like, that's my soulmate. Absolutely, the moment you're with them for 5 minutes.
Absolutely, and like, we moved in together at 6 months. Engaged at 15 months. Like, where we knew, like, we went ring shopping at 3 months.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know that, but like, we were like, all right, let's do it. We're old enough and we love each other and this is awesome.
Fuck yeah. Oh my god, like, I don't want to make like, oh, but this is like my relationship, but like, absolutely, like, 6 months here too. It happened very sporadically. She'd come over every weekend, and then I was just like, oh, it's Wednesday and more stuff is here of yours than last weekend. And I was just like, all right, let's go get a house key. Let's go.
Yes. Absolutely.
The way Noah talks about you is like, I'm gonna hype my bro up. Is just above anything else. Like, Oh my god, like we're like funny enough, we're talking about Marvel Rivals and just going right to like saying I'm proposing. Like I don't know, I forget what the smooth transition was, but just how he was able to relate a video game to like I'm proposing by the way this
He
Sunday.
would. He would have to work doing that.
It was so seamless. I was like, fuck, are we talking about Marvel Rivals? Because like I don't know anything about a proposal. I just know about Marvel.
Like, is that in the game? Did I miss that? That's awesome.
The next
At all.
and now because all these segues have been somehow connecting, going from the lyrics you write and so much vulnerability you've already discussed, I ask every single person that's ever been a guest so far, and hopefully for the future, is the feeling of vulnerability. Talk about the vulnerability, like when you're writing, when you're preparing for a show, when you're at the show. Does it play a negative factor or an empowering factor?
Damn. I think I've learned to be more vulnerable over time.
Yes.
I think I've definitely always been a pretty open book person. I've never felt really like awkward or hidden about things. Like I'll talk about, like traumatic experiences in my life. I'll talk about money. Like I don't care. I've never been like weird about any of that kind of stuff. But I think on this newest album with Kid specifically, when I released that one felt like, oh, this is like who I am now. And these are like a little bit darker of thoughts that I haven't really touched on in my music before, or like things that had happened in my life that like people close to me knew about, but I was like kind of putting it out there for other, strangers or whatever to listen to. And I think it was a big turning point on like how I wanted my new music to go. And I think I also was able to make things less literal because I'd always kind of written like that, and be a little bit more like, you guys can figure it out, like, or you can relate it to your own thing. I don't need to spell it out for you. So I think it kind of changed my relationship with like listening to music too. Because I'm like, oh, if I was like listening to the song for the first time, as opposed to me just always being like, oh, I wrote it. This is I understand what it's about, and not maybe always considering if you guys knew what it was about or like understood it. So I do think that Kid kind of opened up a new door of vulnerability, and Neverland I would say is not vulnerable in that sense. It's kind of like an upbeat sequel to Kid, but the new stuff that I have coming out is definitely a lot more personal because it's more of my actual adult life of like, by the time it comes out, like from like 21, 22 to like 26, 27. So like that's a huge gap of time of like going through a lot of changes in life and like big things and hard things and great things. So I think that the vulnerability is opening up more as I become more like comfortable with myself as well, and be like, okay, like this is where I'm at, and like I'm more aware of things. Like I'm growing. My frontal lobe is developing. It's almost
25.
Absolutely. I got like 5 months to become 9, and then all of the growing will stop. So then after that, whatever I am is what you get. So
that's the deluxe version of the album.
Absolutely. Post frontal lobe and or prefrontal lobe and post frontal lobe. Those are the album. It's actually a 2 CD mixtape, and it's prefrontal lobe developing. Oh my god, so that idea. I want to trademark that idea. That's good.
To end the conversation, we're gonna jump into my favorite 3 questions to ask. The third one is really hard, so prepare yourself mentally. Number 1, what is your go-to anthem, album, song, EP? It's an open-ended question. What is kind of like that wake up or that drive to work song or drive to gig song? It could be yours, by the way. Like that's entirely okay if it's one of yours.
I never listen to my own music. That's hilarious. I literally change it if it comes on my playlist. I'm like, I know how this one goes. I've heard it like a lot.
I was there.
Yeah, been there. Done that. Who's this girl? She sucks.
Yo, quick side note. Working with Shoop, I had to force him to let me play his music at work because he used to like grab the speaker and turn it off, but I would either put it higher or I would just get it up to like Q5 times. But yeah,
Oh yeah, I have friends that do that too. They're like, I'll be at a house party, and then all of a sudden I'm like, is this red flags? And they're like, yeah, I cued it, and I was like, why? I'm just trying to drink my White Claw and have a good time. What's happening? To answer your question, I mean, lately I've been listening to the Wicked soundtrack. However, not typically my go-to. That's just my little phase right now. A super inspirational album specifically that I still go to often is, and it might sound a little cliche, but Stick Season by Noah Kahn. I was living in Spain when that album came out, and I was obsessed. I listened to it an embarrassing amount because I had to ride a bus and a subway and a train and stuff every single day for hours to go to around. And yeah, just on repeat. And it really, like, I think that's kind of when I started to shift a little bit more into like the folk pop, indie pop, like him and Lizzie McAlpine. Lizzie McAlpine is definitely my favorite artist. But the two of them, I was like, oh, like it's pop on the radio. I'd never really listened to folk before, but I love how he's doing it. And then lyrically, it's just insane. Like his songs are so vulnerable without being super like preachy or like in your face obvious about stuff. So I really appreciate that. And those are, yeah, go-to artists for sure.
Okay, that will be queued up. I've heard a lot about Noah Kahn, but he's always been the one I'm like, yeah, it'll be added. But I think you've sold me on him because putting the word folk with anything, right down my alley.
Yeah, and you gotta like, you know, when an artist has a couple hits that are on the radio and then they get overplayed and you're like, okay, I'm tired of it. You gotta listen to the other songs because those are usually the better ones.
Understood. Yes.
Those are the more radio friendly ones, but the ones that have more depth are usually the other ones.
Understood. We're good. The next one is name an artist, brand, collective that you would want anybody listening to check out. It can be a best friend, it can be someone you're inspired by, it can be even like a celebrity like Noah Kahn, but like just as someone like, hey, this person's doing cool things, gotta check them out.
Absolutely. I've got my two girlfriends that are wonderful people and incredible musicians. Abby J. Hall just released her debut EP. We have a song together on my second album called Besties for Life, but her music is insane. She's incredible, so check her stuff out. And then Michaelan Hay, local in Guelph, one of my close friends, and she's always releasing new singles. She's super, super cool. Definitely check her stuff out.
That is one to bring in. Well, that is two to bring into the FTI community. So I will be checking them out, and everybody listening as well. And the third one, I apologize in advance. Plug yourself. What you got going on? Upcoming shows, especially the one in March. Absolutely anything. The floor is yours to end the conversation.
Yep. So upcoming stuff. Slightly delayed, actually. I had a single come out last Friday called Fog Breath Hearts. And it's one of my favorite songs I've ever written. And it's the third single off the new album. Really proud of that one. So check that out. That's on all streaming platforms. I have a really cool show in Toronto called at the El Macombo. And that will be with Michaelan and Abby. It's a triple female headliner night, which is super fun. Ladies' night. And I'm always doing local shows. So just follow me on Instagram, CJ Cooper Official. I play at a lot of downtown bars and cafes, and I'm always around. So come check out a show and say hi. And yeah, happy to see some cool people.
And with that FTI community, everything will be here wherever the camera is at the bottom. Instagram's over here, streaming everywhere right there. This no slack to the ones that we have already been on, but this is an all-time favorite conversation. I have yet to say that on the record, so just the beginning, the laughing. Megamat's gonna hate because I'm going back from the mic forward to the mic side of the mic. Absolutely incredible conversation. Everybody, Guelph, Kitchener, Waterloo, entity in New Zealand, already in America. You already know what I'm going to say. Check out CJ Cooper absolutely everywhere. stream her whole catalog, not just the song that came out last Friday, and go back and watch her Creator of the Week reel, her Wednesday highlight video, and absolutely everything. Evercat community, I will catch you next week. Have a great day.